Hi everyone, my name is Gibin Nam, and today I would like to talk about a notable Korean film called The Battle Roar to Victory, or what I would like to view as the Avengers of Korea, and you'll see towards the end of this presentation as to why I find this phrase suitable for the film. To briefly go over the table of contents and what I would like to cover through this presentation, first the factual historical background of which this film was based off of, then the film background and the synopsis of the film or brief overview of the movie. So spoiler alert for those who want to watch the movie first, I highly suggest you do so before resuming this video. And lastly, my personal reflection and takeaways from the film. Starting off with the historical background, this movie was influenced by the events that took place in Korea during the 1920s. It was soon after the March 1st movement of Korea in 1919, where fight for independence among Korean citizens became highly aware and active, especially in the Pongodong area, which is a significant setting of the film as well. However, this film specifically covered an historic battle known as the Battle of Phaengwodong, which spiked on June 6, 1920. And it was a battle between the Korean independence militias and Japanese forces in Manchuria, China, which was noted as a 4-day battle. One thing to highlight is that this battle was led by a Korean general named Hong Bum-do, who also shines his character in the film The Battle Roar to Victory. One important key point to keep in mind as you're watching the film is that it took place in the 1920s, where Japanese imperialism took in place. It was the era where Korea was under Japanese ruling and empowerment. At the time, Japanese claimed their brutal methods of empowerment over Korea was a crucial part of modernization and was necessary. However, Korean independence fighters did not take this or view it as a valid reasoning behind the brutal actions portrayed by the Japanese forces and continued to battle on for their rights and independence. Now, diving straight into the film, The Battle Roar to Victory was directed by a Korean director called Won Shin-yeon. He has a background and experience with series of thriller and horror films, which I believe was quite well influenced and reflected in this film as well, with full of suspense and build-ups, which made the film much more engaging and entertaining coming from a viewer's perspective like myself. Running time was around 2 hours and 15 minutes. And this film was released in middle to late of 2019. Specific dates for Korea and US are as shown. And to list few of the main characters of the film, Yoo Hae-jin played a role as Hwang Hae-chul, Ryu Jun-yeol was Lee Jang-ha, Ju Woo-jin as Ma Byung-gu, and Yasu Kawajiro, a Japanese actor, as Kazuki Kitamura, and lastly, Choi Min-sik as Hong Bum-do, as Korean general I initially mentioned, who was a key figure that led to victory in this war. Now, all of the mentioned actors are very well known in Korea and have participated in numerous notable films as well. Now, a quick overview of the movie storyline, and once again, a spoiler alert. Now, it started off as Korean independence militia, the master swordsman / the marksman Hwang Hae-chul and his people, who initially was only seeking for escape from the combat, but repeatedly seeing the brutal reality of the war leading to deaths of innocent people and destruction of villages provoked their anger and patriotism, pulling the last toll on them, which leads them to commit their dedication to end this war and claim Korea's independence as a final. Now, which then they end up meeting the young commander Lee Jang-ha, who comes to form alliance and join the team to secretly initiate a suicidal mission to be the bait for the Japanese forces and to capture them in a designated area, which the movie presents as the Ring of Death, to end the battle. Finally, I would like to close out my presentation with my personal reflection and takeaways from the film. Starting with the symbol presented in the movie brings in the ashes of the former independence fighters, which is carried out throughout the entire combat or movie in general. And despite the harsh circumstances of the combat, the independence fighters does whatever it takes to protect and keep the ashes. And another big spoiler alert is at the end of the movie, Commander Hong scatters the ashes at the top of the Pongodong Valley towards their hometown after winning the battle. The impression that I personally got from the symbolization and how I interpreted it as was once a fighter, forever fighter until the day of independence. And it really spoke loud on all the efforts that it took, considering initial independence fighters all the way down the road to those who was there to mark the victory in the end as well, just like this movie. And next was brutality. The movie contained multiple brutal scenes portraying the reality and the countless sacrifices made overall during the journey of Korea's independence movements. And finally, ultimately leading up to why I personally view them as the Avengers of Korea was because of, from this film specifically, was how perfectly this film integrated the strong build-ups, climax scenes, sense of humor, and portrayal of heroic characters, which I believe has all the ideals to make this the Korean quote-unquote Avengers film based on true historic events. So ultimately, one thing I like to say is I highly recommend this movie to those who loves thriller/action movies and that also wants to learn and get a good insight on actual Korea's history and their fight for independence. Here are the resources that helped me gather the information presented in the slideshows. And thank you so much for watching.